Welcome back, everyone. Hope you're doing well. So everyone's better than you at hunting, eh? That's how it feels. That's how it feels to me. I can relate to that. Am I ever going to get my big mature buck? No matter how hard I try, is it ever going to happen? Feels sometimes like, everyone else is getting them. Everyone else getting a big buck. Everyone else is tagging out. You got your FOMO, your fear of missing out. And I'm here to tell you that not everyone is a better hunter than you are. Even though it feels like that, and you get those ideas in the back of your head. Um, Obviously, if you're a good experienced hunter and you're tagging out on big bucks, then this isn't for you. But for those of us that are still fairly new into our journey and trying to build up the experience, and for people who maybe haven't even harvested their first year and they're out there hunting for a couple seasons and it's just not working out for them, that's what you think: is everyone else better than I am? And are they tagging out and are they getting big bucks? And why can't I? The truth is, the people that are tagging out every year and are getting the big mature bucks have a lot of experience. I mean, to do that consistently every season, you don't just figure that out 1 or 2 years. That's like a lifetime of hunting the same species in the same areas and building that skill and that experience and confidence and knowing what your animals are going to do in different areas at different time of the year. And yeah, you can't compare yourself to that, especially when you're new into hunting. Don't let that consume you. Don't overthink it. Be happy for those people. I mean, it's great that somebody out there can get the job done and get a big buck every season or every couple seasons. And that's actually someone to like learn from, treat as a mentor, see what they're doing, listen to what they say, watch how they're doing it. And yeah, it's important for you to learn from people who are successful and know what they're doing. So don't get upset when you see other people getting, nice big mature animals. Your day will come, but for now, just watch, observe, learn, soak up the information they're willing to share, watch what they're doing, try and pick up on maybe some of their strategies and read between the lines. And yeah, that's just knowledge for your memory bank and something that you can put into practice for the future. I think it's important as well for new hunters to find a mentor. Maybe you're in an area where there isn't a lot of hunters, or maybe you just don't know anyone, you don't have access to anyone who's a successful hunter. But a mentor doesn't have to be like, 30 years older than you and like way more experience in the field. A mentor can be someone who's even just like been hunting for 1 year longer than you have. They have that much more experience and knowledge gained, and they can make the learning curve for you really short because they have more in common with you as a new hunter than maybe someone who's been hunting for 20, 30 years. They're so far along in their journey that maybe it's harder for them to connect with a new hunter and really go back to basics and understand what it's like to be clueless and have no confidence and really not sure if what you're doing is working. So there's nothing wrong. Find a friend or someone that's maybe a year or two into hunting, and they're not going to know everything, but they're going to know more than you know. And if they're a good friend, a good hunting partner, then they should be willing to share that information with you and get you up to speed fairly quick. And then you guys can kind of learn and grow together and proceed to get better at hunting. And when you're taking advice from maybe someone who's got a bit more experience than you do, test it. I've done that too. Excuse me. When I first got into hunting, I had a couple like acquaintances, that were, kind of pumped that I got into hunting, and they were sharing information with me. And I'll be honest with you, I mean, because I couldn't get any results from that information, I started to think that they were kind of not giving me great advice. But now that I've been doing it for a while and I've put their advice to the test in the field, and not every time, but eventually started to see that advice work and play out for me, I realized that they were trying to help me in the beginning, but it was until I tested that information or those tips and tricks and found the results for myself that it didn't really sink in. And I kind of laugh at myself because, half a dozen years later, I look back on the things that, some of these people told me, and I'm like, man, they were absolutely right. They weren't like pointing me in the wrong direction. They were telling me exactly where to go and what to do. And I just didn't have the experience and, knowledge and understanding of the game to appreciate what they were telling me. So if someone gives you advice, don't just shrug it off. Take it and test it. Go up in the mountains during hunting season and go where they tell you to go. Use the strategies they might tell you to go implement, and just see if it works. Because once you have something work once or twice for you, that's experience. And then you have confidence in that strategy. And that's how you start to build your quiver of hunting skills, is little individual experiences that then contribute to confidence. And you have that in your quiver, and you're able to like pull them out and use the different strategies as situations arise. So definitely take information people give you, don't shrug it off, and go put it into practice and see for yourself. Maybe another little tip I've done a couple times, and I think it's worth doing, is just trying to observe other hunters and what they're doing as well, right? Just because you run into another deer hunter in your spot doesn't mean the game's over and you just turn around and get out of there. You don't know who that other hunter is. Maybe it's someone who has been doing it their whole life. And maybe you just stop and talk to them. They might be willing to share some information with you. Or you can be a bit of an investigator and go see, I hate to say it, but just go see what they're doing, right? So here's a story, an example. So I was hunting in an area a few years ago, and I'd been in there a whole bunch that week, and I never saw a buck, and I was starting to get a bit frustrated. And then I was hiking in one morning before dark, and as soon as the sun started to come up and get seeing light, I heard a four-wheeler coming, and I got pretty upset. I was like, oh man, anyways, he caught up to me. I made myself visible because I wanted him to know that I was hunting in there as well. I wasn't going to beat him in anyways. So I just stayed in the middle of the trail hiking in, and he pulled over and he stopped. And he was a nice guy, and we chatted. And I said I was going to go hunt over here, and he said he was going to go hunt over there. And so that's what we did. But a couple hours later, I heard his rifle go off. And immediately, you're a little bit choked. You're like, damn, how did that guy get one? I've been in here all week. So I was fine. I didn't want to bother him. He was, not terribly far away, but we weren't right beside each other. So I was like, I'm not even going to bother. I'll just keep hunting and see if I can make it happen for me. But by the end of the day, I had maybe an hour and a half of light left. I was like, you know what? That he did that around 10 a.m. And I thought, well, it's now the late afternoon. Maybe let's go see what I can find, see if I can see where he shot his deer and try and figure out what his strategy was. So I went back to where his four-wheeler was, and there was snow on the ground. And I saw where his four-wheeler was parked, but then I saw this big, long drag trail full of blood. So I'm like, oh, he just probably gutted his deer on the spot and then drug it out because, it's easier to drag a deer out on the snow, I'm sure. And he drug it all the way back to his four-wheeler. So I was like, well, let's reverse investigate this situation. And I started following that drag mark back. And man, he drug that deer quite a ways. But it led me to where all the way up the side of the mountain where he actually shot that buck. I found the spot where he actually shot it. The deer was down. I could see where he worked on it. And it was an area I wasn't really familiar with, right? So it was good. I could see how he got in there. I saw his footprints. And because he was a successful hunter, I don't think there was anything wrong with me, hours after the fact, backtracking his success to see where he did it, where he was when he probably pulled the trigger, where the deer ran, where it fell down, where he processed it, and the route he took to drag it out. And I found that really interesting because that opened up a whole new area for me that I just never dawned on me to go in there and hunt. I was so fixed on this one zone that I'd taken deer in previously that I didn't even think about this other part of the mountain. And that's one more arrow in the quiver, right? So when I went back in there, which I did a lot of times, I started hunting up in that area, and holy smokes, was there ever a lot of deer in there and a lot of sign. And that's where I ran into that first pack of wolves, was coming out of there down a super heavy game trail. So, it doesn't give you, doesn't give you a deer, but I think there's nothing wrong. If you're in an area where other people are hunting and, they've cleared out, you don't want to get in their way or mess with their hunt. But if they've been successful and left or not, I don't know. I'll just go follow footprints around sometimes to see where these other people are hunting, right? I know I'm new, so maybe they're new too and they don't know what they're doing, but I don't know. Chances are they've probably been doing it for a little while, and it's worth just investigating. That's also useful too for sometimes when I think somebody's going into a certain zone and I'll follow their tracks and backtrack them a bit, I realize that they're not actually going in there and they're stopping for what I think is the good stuff, maybe. And they're either turning out of that zone or turn around and heading back, which gives me a bit of confidence too, Because if there's no snow on the ground, I might just assume, oh, I saw that guy go towards that area and he's probably right in my spot, you know, disturbing my deer and probably harvesting the biggest buck in there. And that's what you think. But you get there in the snow and you see the tracks and you realize that they didn't do that. So that gives you a bit of confidence too, that at least you know if people are going all the way in or where they're going or just what strategies they're using. You know, maybe you can adopt and learn a little something from that. And after you've done this for a little while, like, you have to trust that your process works. I mean, there's some pretty basic fundamental rules to deer hunting. It doesn't take a genius to figure them out. Like, after you've gone down the rabbit hole for a season or two, you probably know all the fundamentals, like the wind, how to be quiet, where you should be hunting, the time of year. But if you're not being successful, your confidence is going to start dropping. You feel like you're not doing anything right, and why isn't it working for me? I hear gunshots go off in the distance. Other people are getting them. And it kind of plays on your mind a little bit when you're new into hunting, new to the game. But you have to trust that what you're doing is working. Don't give up. Don't get frustrated. Don't kick rocks and just start moving too quick and, scaring the deer that are probably there. You just have to keep grinding and trust that you are capable. You know what you're doing. And the more you do it, the more you grind, you're eventually going to get your opportunity and you're going to get yourself your first buck. And I said this earlier, but don't compare yourself to other people. Be happy with your achievements. Incremental improvements is what's going to get you to the finish line, right? You can't just, and I know some people try and some people pull it off, but you can't just go from having never deer hunted, never blacktail deer hunted, and then just, knocking down giant mature bucks the first season. You probably won't even do it for a few seasons. But you will improve as you move along. You're going to keep learning and building that experience and the knowledge and build confidence. And then you just have to trust that what you're doing is right. And like I said, it's going to pay off if you just keep going. This might seem silly to some people, but this is a mentality or mindset I picked up from steelheading. And I think it transfers pretty well into deer hunting as well. Is just be aware of your circle of friends that you keep, right? Some people are super competitive. And like in the fishing world, I hate that. Like, we all know, well, hopefully we all know how to catch steelhead and we're all, a group of capable anglers, but I hate it when someone's like super competitive and they always want to go through the run first, or if they catch the biggest fish, they never let it go and they always try to, rub it in everyone else's face. And man, that does not make fishing fun. And I drop those fishing buddies real quick because that's not what I'm in it for, right? I think it's the same with hunting. I mean, everybody wants to be successful and get a big buck, but it's no fun. Like I said, you got to be happy for people when they are successful and they do get a nice buck. But man, it's kind of annoying when people like almost rub it in your face and you're trying your hardest and they know you're trying real hard. And I don't know, man, it takes the fun out of it. I don't like the idea of always worrying about what other people are doing and how successful they're being. You just got to worry about yourself. And if you find a group of friends that are maybe you find someone that's been hunting a long time and they kind of want to take you under your wing and be a mentor and they just want to see you be successful and they get a kick out of watching you be successful. Honestly, that's how I am with steelheading. I probably fish with more people. I like sort of bringing people into the steelhead world, right? And I've got a bunch of friends now that are completely capable steelheaders and it's a lifestyle. And I definitely like brought them into it and helped them and tried to like coach them along and give them advice. And that so many days I would just park my butt on a rock or a log beside the river and I'll just yell at them and coach them like with casting the spey rod. Like, I would rather see that. Like, it wouldn't bring me any joy to run out below them and catch a fish in front of them and be like, haha, I caught a steelhead, you need to get better. Nobody wants that. So I like fishing behind them. I like just parking my butt, like I said, on the riverbank and just watch them catch their first fish or their first few fish, because that's exciting for me. Because the joy on their face when that first steelhead just rips the fly and the line out of their hand is priceless, right? So if you could find someone like that, but in the deer hunting space, who's probably got a wall full of trophy bucks, but they see the passion in your eyes and when you speak, they could just tell you're jacked on it. Find someone like that who wants to come with you or at least give you good advice and coaches you in a way that actually contributes to you eventually having success, right? And then as you build your skills up, try and pass that down, right? You find someone else, one of your friends that sees what you're doing every fall and they're like, oh, I'd like to get into deer hunting. Jump on that. Be their mentor. Like, you got to remember, like, they're starting at ground zero. And even if you don't feel like you've been ultra successful. Like, I haven't harvested my big mature buck, but I love it when my friends say they're interested in hunting. I take them out, I help them sight their rifles in, take them grouse hunting. I'll do my best to like point them in direction to find a deer. Maybe not a big mature buck, but at least they shoot their first forky, and that's success, right? And they're happy with that, and I get a kick out of doing that as well. So I think it's important to find people that want you to be successful, and I think it's important for you to want people to be successful, and that builds a good friendship and a good circle of friends, right? And those should be your hunting buddies, not people that are always trying to make sure they get the biggest buck, and they're lying to you about their spots, or they're not giving you great advice because they don't want to see you go in and get the big buck. It's like, I don't have time for that, man. Like, I don't like competition, period. So yeah, I'll leave that up to you, but I would definitely recommend find a group of hunting friends, a circle that is supportive. Possibly, you guys are all on the same skill level or close to it, because then you could genuinely help each other and share secret or tips with each other and things that you've learned, and you can grow together, because whatever good information you give one of your good hunting friends, they'll appreciate that, especially if it works out for them. And then when they learn something, they'll share it back to you, and then you learn from that and you grow. And together, it's a good, just a good way to do it, I think. And again, you should only ever be in competition with yourself. Only compare your success to your own success, to your previous success. Like, every day you go out in the woods deer hunting, even if you don't get anything, as long as you get like 0.5% or 1% better every day, you get a little bit quieter. You learn a little bit more about what's happening around you in the woods. You learn a little bit more about how the wind's going to blow in your zone. That's incremental improvements, and that's what you need to succeed. Maybe after a year, maybe every year you get 5 to 10% better. I feel like I've been hunting for, I don't know, half a dozen years, maybe 6 or 7, and I laugh when I look back at the first couple seasons. I'm no expert, and I haven't even achieved like my number one goal yet, but I could see the incremental improvements in myself, and that's consistency, and that's important. Like, you cannot shortcut consistency. I mean, if you want to be successful every year and build your confidence, man, you have got to go out every time, be consistent, and improve a little bit at a time. You can't expect to go from 0 to 100 in a day, but maybe over the course of a year, you'll be 100% better. And then over the course of your second or third season, you're 150% better than you were on day one. That's huge, man. You're just compounding knowledge and experience, and eventually you're going to get to a spot where you are confident that you can harvest deer consistently. And now it's just a matter of, how do I find a big deer? So just keep telling yourself when you're out hunting and you're getting frustrated that you do know what you're doing. You are doing things right. You will be successful. It's just a matter of time. You just have to have this mindset of growth, and that, every little bit of effort, every time you put the boots on the ground, that you're learning and you're getting better, and you're going to eventually be successful. There's no two ways about it. But if you quit and walk away, you say, this is too frustrating, it's too hard, I don't have time, you're going to get nothing. You're just not going to be successful, right? And that mentality, that mindset is transferable to everything else in life. It doesn't have to be hunting. It could be a new business that you're starting. It could be a relationship. It could be a new skill. Like, you want to be a better golfer. You want to be a better skier, whatever it is. If you have that mindset to be consistent and continually grind every day, and don't compare yourself to others. Other people might learn faster than you. They might have more natural talent and ability. And that's only going to aggravate you and frustrate you. So don't do that. Like, just comparison is natural. It's just, everyone does it. I do it all the time. I'm hiking around the woods. I got my deer this year, but every day I think about, why can't I get a big buck? Like, what am I doing wrong? I'm trying my hardest, and I know other people are getting big bucks, but not everyone, right? I think we fall into this trap that everyone is having like amazing success all the time, and we're just failures, and we can't pull it off no matter how hard we try, no matter how much research we do, no matter how much time and practice we put in. But it's not the case at all. You got to remember, there's people every season that are not tagging out. They're not even shooting deer. There's probably people that have hunted for several years that have never even harvested their first buck in their life. And then maybe this year you took a spike or a 2-point or something. So don't beat yourself up. You are where you are in your hunting journey, and everyone else is where they are. So as long as you continue to prove every time you head out, you're well on your way to being successful. So I thought just for fun, maybe I'd show some shed antlers that sort of demonstrate my goal and what would make me happy at this point in my career. Um, just as a demonstration, like the more time you spend in the field, the more knowledge you gain because of the things you see and the things you find, and that lets you know how high the goal could be, right? So for example, not everyone, but I'm just gonna, like, broadly speaking, most people's first buck might look something like this. Could be a spike, could be just a little forky 2-point. I've harvested a few of these, and I was super happy when I did. I mean, I can't complain. But eventually, that was a goal I had, to just be successful. And once you get a couple of these guys and you realize that you've been successful, and then what's the next? How do I level up to the next goal? What's going to keep me learning? What's going to keep pushing me along and, generate the desire to, like, continue to learn and grow? So I'll show you some other antlers I think are pretty cool. And when I picked these up, that's really what I wanted to get this year, and it's exactly what my goal is going to be for next year. And I'm just going to keep trying my best to pull it off. So, here's an example of definitely some heavier blacktail sheds, right? Maybe not super old and mature, but certainly bigger than anything I've ever harvested. This guy's pretty cool. Similar in age. It's got a big palmation going on. And they certainly can get bigger than this. But where I'm at and the size of the bucks that I've harvested, this is a step up, right? So this is my next level. I mean, if I could jump a couple levels and see a giant buck, I will definitely take it. But this is a pretty good blacktail buck. I would be so happy if I harvested a deer of that caliber and age category. Here's another one. Again, bigger than anything I've harvested, but I'm picking up sheds like this. So that's given me confidence that even though I haven't been successful yet, I am hunting in the right spots. Maybe I got a ways to go to learn how to hunt more effectively. Maybe I'm not being quiet enough. Maybe I'm not playing the wind properly. Maybe I'm not reading the terrain properly. But that doesn't mean I'm going to give up and go home. That just fuels the fire, man. I get so obsessed when I pick up stuff like that. And then just when you think that, you could never ask for a better buck than that, you pick up sheds like this. How cool is that? Turn around. Like, this isn't like a set of antlers that would score very high, but man, that's a pretty old buck. And look at the palmation on that. That's so cool. Like, I've said it before, but beggars can't be choosers, but I'm not super obsessed with getting like a mature blacktail buck that's got, tape measure friendly. I mean, I would take it and I'd be happy about it, but I would be so happy to take something old and regressed like this. What a crazy set of antlers, eh? And then of course there are the final bosses out there. And you know what? I'm sure they get bigger than this, but like this set of sheds I picked up, that's by far the biggest set of mature blacktail antlers I've ever found. I found another older set, almost as big, but like, this is, like I said, this is the final boss. If I could pull off a big mature blacktail like this at some point in my life, I feel like that will have been my goal. But I already know, if I can get a buck this big, I'll want to do it again. And I'll want to get a bigger one. So it never ends, man. The obsession never ends, at least for me. And I still have these thoughts. Like, I would love to shoot a buck like this. And every time I'm out hunting, that's all I think about is like, oh, everyone's shooting big mature bucks like this. But they're not. Some people are. The experts, the professional guys that have been doing this have just a perfect, like, blend of like talent and skill, and they know what they're doing. They pull off big bucks like this every year. And I could only hope to be that one day, but that's my goal. I strive towards that, right? Like, I want to get better. So even though these ideas creep up in your head that you suck at hunting because you can't just find something like this, remember, not everyone is pulling something like this off. So don't do that to yourself. Just compare your success to your own success, right? So if last year I shot that Forky and this year I shot like a 4-year-old 2-point, that's an improvement. You went from here to there, right? And for me this year, as I made those videos deer hunting, it was super important for me to pass on those small deer. Like I said in those videos, even last year, I would have shot that spike in that little Forky. I wouldn't even have thought twice about it. So it's like, I can't keep saying that I want to get better and that, I don't want to suck at blacktail deer hunting forever unless I consciously make those decisions to pass on those deer, right? Chances of me shooting a big buck like that, it could happen, but I can't, if I shoot small deer earlier in the season, it's over, right? So you got to hold out and you got to be sure that what you're doing will work. And, like I've said, it's getting lucky really is where hard work and opportunity intersect. So the more you go after it, the more you have faith in yourself, confidence that what you're doing is right, and the more time you spend in the woods, you just need that one opportunity for something like that to walk out in front of you, and all of a sudden you're the guy who got lucky, or the girl, and you're standing there with this like trophy blacktail buck. So yeah, you got to stay with it. You got to be like a dog on a bone and don't give up on yourself. This might sound a little corny, but I know Michael Jordan's got some pretty timeless quotes around being successful and winning. And the one that always sticks in the back of my head is, he says, some people want it to happen, some people wish it would happen, and other people make it happen. So it's on you to make it happen, right? And that's the grind, and that's the like incremental improvements. That's the failures, the losses, and not giving up and picking yourself up and getting out there again and just sticking with it and get after it. Like, make it happen, right? You could think in the back of your head that other people are getting it done all you want, and some are, most aren't. So don't get down on yourself that you're the only one that can shoot a big buck, or even a buck if you've just gotten into it, right? You might go out for what seems like a long time in like one season and you can't even find a spike. Like, don't worry, man, you eventually will. And when you do pull it off, that's a win, that's an achievement, and you're going to feel happy about that, and that's going to generate that desire to get to the next level. So like I said, everyone's on their own journey. Everyone's somewhere along the spectrum of that journey. You can't compare yourself to someone that's been doing it for a long time, and you should look up to anyone that's a little bit ahead of you on that journey, even if it's a season or two. Don't be afraid to ask for advice, show interest. I know most hunters just love talking about it. So, I mean, if you just spark that conversation and show genuine interest, you never know who might take you under their wing and start giving you some really good tips and advice. Yeah, I don't know about the rest of you, but man, I'm going to just keep my nose to the grindstone, and I'm going to try for that big mature buck again this year. I got to tag out this year, so I know what I'm doing is right. Now that the season's done, I look back on it and you overthink everything, right? You're like, maybe I should have waited till later in the season. People say the biggest bucks don't show up until the last couple of days of the hunting season, and they're probably right. But then you roll the dice of not shooting a deer at all. So that's a choice you got to make, right? If you want to keep improving, you have to make sacrifices to get out ahead and do better than you did the day before and do better than you did the season before. So anyways, just wanted to address self-doubt a little bit. If you're into it, you've got your gear and you're out in the woods and you're hiking and you're trying your best to find a deer, you are going to get a deer and you're on the path of success. So don't overthink it. Don't compare yourself to other people. It'll happen for you when the time's right and when you've done the hard work and the opportunity presents itself. So take care, and we'll see you next time.